So as always, it's wonderful to be back. I just spent the last couple days going to California and then staying there in San Francisco at Mariana Kaplan's house for a couple days, and was doing a teachers meeting with other members of the Association for Spiritual Integrity. And so now I'm back, and I will be traveling again on Wednesday, going to go teach a retreat. So I'll just give an update of the schedule. On Wednesday, that's February 5th, 2020, no meditation. And Sunday, February 9th, 2020, no satsang. So I apologize for the inconvenience. After those two times, I should be here, hopefully in Colorado for a long while. Not planning on traveling anytime after this coming week. So, okay. Let's see what else we have here. A big thank you to all your generous donations. A couple people donated a little bit more than usual this week, and that was really helpful to help pay for the travels and some of the new equipment that I've been purchasing. So it's helping put a dent in that. So thank you, truly, truly. Let's see what else I have here. I think those are all the announcements. So basically after February 9th, I'm going to have a normal schedule again for all the online broadcasts. Oh yeah, one more announcement. Because I've been traveling, I've been missing a lot of your emails. So if during the webcast, if you show up live and you want me to answer your question or I didn't get to it, please just repost it. That is very helpful for me. If you submit it a couple minutes before class or during class via email, I will not receive it. So put it in the chat if I don't get to it or you see that I'm not getting to it. I work very good with reminders, and if I didn't get to your email and it's been a while, just resend it. And I'll just say this: I can't get to every single one just because I'm so busy and I'm just really backed up. And if you write shorter, more concise emails, that's helpful, because if they're really long, sometimes it just gets lost in translation. So why don't we just close our eyes for a couple minutes here. Give ourselves permission just to relax, to let go, and to trust, to relax, let go, and trust. And so we're trusting that if we're struggling with anything, that eventually it will work itself out. We're trusting that it's okay to put down any struggle, any heartache, any confusion. We're trusting that what we are is good, is divine, and is much greater than any confusion or turmoil or numbness we may be facing. We trust that we are a child of the Most High God, that the Divine Mother loves us and created us so that we may experience joy in human form, peace in human form, so we may share love and compassion with our own body, our own nervous system, and the rest of our brothers and sisters here on planet Earth. So let's all just take a deep breath. Feel in the belly, a deep and profound letting go. And can you trust it will all work out? Can you trust that you will awaken to your highest divinity? And that right now there's something within you that is already awake, already good, already whole, complete. Can you open your hearts and trust that peace is here, silence is here, that we're seated in vast, spacious freedom, right here, right now. Vast, spacious freedom. So again, just breathing in, breathing out, feeling, experiencing. Just gently letting go. Breathing in, breathing out. Relaxing your jaw, the muscles of the face, the back of the skull, many muscles in the neck, the throat, the shoulders. And we're directly experiencing our own divinity. This quiet goodness that you are. Just gently breathing in, breathing out. Feeling, experiencing the rise and the fall of the breath. This quiet radiance and divinity that you are. Relaxing muscles in the chest, behind the heart, solar plexus and the belly. And just breathing in, breathing out. Feeling, experiencing. Gently smiling and letting go. Relaxing the lower belly, the pelvis, pelvic floor, the legs, the feet, arms, the hands. Directly experiencing your being, your goodness. And I invite you just to feel yourself directly, your being, your presence. The mind oftentimes is like a commentator, one of those sports commentators, commenting about all the players' moves at the Super Bowl. The commenter's not actually in the game. So I encourage you to be like an athlete, be in the game, be connected to your being, your presence, your direct experience. Comments come and go. It can be positive or negative, this or that. But can you simply be with your experience? A direct experience of your heart, the rise and fall of your belly. And as you open and become receptive, you may notice this quiet column of light just holding you, flooding your being. And so can you open? Can you let go? Can you trust and receive that which is good, that which is divine within you and from heaven above? God is here in every moment, wanting to shower you with grace, with light, with love, with joy, if you're receptive. If you're receptive. It doesn't cost you anything. The price is simply humility, a willingness to directly experience what's happening right here, right now. And so I invite you just to continue to breathe, to feel, to experience. I'm going to start picking up some of these questions here that were emailed in. And of course, if anyone has a question for me, you're welcome to leave a message in the chat, or if you're on Zoom, ask for the microphone, and I'd be happy to speak with you this evening. And so, stay with your experience as always. That's what we do in Satsang. Satsang is meeting in truth, the truth of this moment, the truth of your direct experience. So right now across the United States, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and sports, I think, is, it's a funny thing to watch. I find it a beautiful thing to participate in, to join in the play of life, fully. But in reality, like on a football pitch, out on the ice, if we're playing hockey, if we're climbing mountains, to touch the mountains, get your hands on them. But it's a different thing to just sit and watch someone else play and to listen, to some other man or woman tell you what's happening. It's a bizarre kind of thing I found. It's like you're watching a dream on TV while a dreamcaster is telling you what's happening, and we're divorced from reality when we do this. We listen to the commentator, whether it's our own mind or the commentator on the wide world of sports. It's taking a deeper step into samsara when we listen to all those comments, the commenting. I find it quite boring to sit and watch sports. A couple times a year, I'll watch a hockey game, normally at the Stanley Cup, but that's about all I can do with watching sports on TV. And so it's nice to be here with you this evening. Coming together from the heart, sitting in truth. Sitting in truth. And so one of the questions that came forward this evening Let's see if I can pull it up here. This one, I think it's from Justina. She writes, "Hi Craig, what is the difference between spiritual bypassing and using your spiritual practice as a break from the world? When does spiritual practice become spiritual bypassing?" Boy, this is a great question. And my friend Mariana Kaplan, she's written many good books. And Eyes Wide Open, I think, might be my favorite one. Yoga and the Psyche is another one. But her teacher was John Wellwood. John Wellwood coined the term spiritual bypassing, and he never meant it to have a negative connotation. You know, he said we all spiritually bypass. You know, in a sense, old school spirituality, and by that I mean the original spirituality, looked out at the world and came up with a pretty clear conclusion. Life is difficult, as the Buddha put it. Life is dukkha, life is suffering, it's hard, it's messy, it's confusing. And so almost every spiritual practice was a way to transcend the world, to get out of this world, because, you know, hell, at the time of the Buddha, you could die at the age of, you could die as a baby from a simple cold or pneumonia. They didn't have antibiotics back in those days. You could die from a rotten tooth at age 19, you know. And so the Buddha said, take all of your energy and focus it on freedom, on stepping into something beyond the human body, beyond the human self. And let's just bypass the whole thing. Let's forget about marriage and, you know, having children. Let's bypass life and just meditate on the highest truth. And a lot of spiritual traditions focused on that. You know, so in one sense, all spiritual practice is spiritually bypassing life. Now that's one perspective. There's nothing wrong with practicing a lot and stepping into other states of consciousness. So what John Wellwood was trying to get at is with spiritual bypassing, if we're speaking about it in a negative light, it's similar to spiritual materialism, where we are using our spirituality as a way to hide from life because we're afraid, because we're scared. And when we do it in a way, when we start to develop, you know, a neurotic response to life. I'll use myself as an example because I used to be a master at spiritual bypassing. You know, in my first marriage, it was one of those marriages that, I'll just be blunt here. We got married because we got pregnant, and so my heart wasn't really in it. I was literally on my way to the monastery when my first wife told me, "Hey, I'm pregnant," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I thought I was leaving, but I guess I'm staying, and I'm glad I stayed because I have a beautiful daughter, Maya. But the marriage was just hard. It was a really difficult marriage, and so, you know, my wife said, "You know, do you want to hang out on the couch and watch TV?" So, well, I'm just going to meditate, you know, for a little bit, and a little bit might turn into 3 hours. And so, you know, she wasn't so happy with me. I wasn't so happy with her. We weren't really a good match to begin with. And so I spent all my time going on retreats and just avoiding life with her. And because it was just a difficult, painful match. And so I was using spirituality to bypass something in my human life that I should have just faced. And, you know, eventually we had to face it, and the marriage ended. And so that's a form of spiritual bypassing when it's in a negative light. And so I'll read the question again. What is the difference between spiritual bypassing and using your spiritual practice as a break from the world? I will say this, Justina, we all need a break from the world. We all need a break from the world. The world right now in 2020 is moving so fast, so quickly. And so in a positive way, if you are practicing spirituality and you are connecting more fully with your body, with your heart, with your presence, with your gift. And by your gift, I mean your manifestation, your truth, how this divinity that you are will manifest here on planet Earth. If you're connecting with your heart and the manifestation of your heart here on planet Earth, or taking the time to get to know your heart, that's not spiritual bypassing. That's you going deeper into your divine self and letting it flow into your human self, into your human self. And so ideally, we are not spiritually bypassing because of fear, because we're afraid of, feeling something in the world, or feeling something in ourself. I've met many people who've meditated many, many years, sometimes many decades, and I look at them and I can see clearly that there's deep pain in their heart or deep pain in their belly, and they just meditate in this area, like this space, vast spacious awareness with no contact with the body. And so you can use spirituality to avoid feelings within your heart, within your belly, because you're afraid. You're afraid to feel. You're afraid of being human. You're afraid of the emotions within you. Hell, I've seen people who I know there's some new spiritual energies waking up in their belly, and they try to hang out up here in their head and just say mantra and avoid, this great power in their belly, because they know if they open to it, it'll change their life in a huge way. It would ask them to surrender into something greater. So people can use spiritual bypassing in a number of neurotic ways. And so if you're just taking a little break from the world because, we all need a break from the world, that's a beautiful thing. If you're using spiritual practice as a way to neurotically avoid pain, fear, emotions, your relationship, your children, and then you're actually going to cause harm to yourself, and you're going to prolong your path. I've seen people actually abandon their children in the name of spiritual bypassing. From one perspective, the Buddha abandoned his wife and his kids, in the name of spirituality, in the name of truth. And, I'm not going to judge him too hardly, because that's the Buddha we're speaking about here. But, you have to look in your heart and just be really honest. What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your practice? Are you using practice as a way to avoid life? Or are you using practice as a way to deepen into the direct experience of your being? The little, like the tagline for my teaching is fully human, fully divine. My question was, I want to know what it means to be fully divine, to wake up to all these incredible levels of being and divinity, and to allow this divinity to flow through my human self. How can these two worlds come together? And this is hard. This is the most difficult question here on planet Earth. It's a difficult question, something I struggle with each day. Just on, I guess yesterday I was in the airport, and my plane was canceled and delayed. And to be honest, I didn't really want to be at the airport. I don't like being kind of jammed into a small tin flying box. I much prefer drive, even if it's a far drive. There's all kinds of people at the airport wearing those masks, because everyone's afraid they're going to die of the coronavirus, even though I think there's only 8 people out of 300 or 400 million people in the United States that have the virus. But Um, kind of looked like the end of the world at the airport, like the zombie apocalypse was happening because everyone had their mask on. And so, I struggled. I struggled because I was tired. I was hungry. My plane um, was late. It got canceled, this and that. And so I sit with this question: what does it mean to be free and seated at the airport and, being, running around looking for your plane because they keep changing the gate. And you're about to take off after the plane's been delayed for an hour, and you're on the runway, and the pilot says, "Oh, we don't have any fuel." You have to go back. And so, it's a silly thing being human. It's difficult. And so if you need to sit and meditate on an airplane, I've spent many hours sitting and meditating on the airplane. That's a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. If your choice is watching TV or meditating, it's like, by all means, meditate. Meditate. If you need a little break from life, one of the things I do is I just lay down, place a hand on my heart, a hand on my belly, and just breathe. Feel. Let my consciousness spread out into a very informal practice. And so that's not bypassing. If my child is calling my name and I'm ignoring her, then it is bypassing. That would be something you would hope I would not do. And you'd hope I would not do that. And so when you hear the voice of a child, if your heart is awake and you're spiritually awake, you go meet the child, you go play ball, you enjoy life. Spiritual bypassing does not mean, let me say this a little bit differently. If you have a boring, dull life here on planet Earth, and you find it more enlivening to meditate, that's not spiritually bypassing. That's you listening to the truth of your heart and doing what your heart is calling you to do. My heart always called for more time in meditation, more time on retreat, doing pilgrimage to India or whatever it is. And so I encourage you, if your heart calls out to you, listen to that call. Because your other choice is to, step into the collective unconscious and bypass your divinity through just being another human being who's lost. And we certainly don't need another human being who's lost. So, I encourage you just sit with that and feel into it. Feel what comes forward. Okay. So, next question. This is a fun question someone sent me. This is from Lee, I think in South Africa. Here's the question. Lee writes, Craig, following your Sunday satsang, instead of waiting for God to come to us, we should, and then Lee just writes a bunch of periods, with a question mark at the end, with thanks. Lee, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with this. You want me to complete the sentence? Instead of waiting for God to come to us, we should meditate, pray, call to God, walk in the direction of God, open our hearts to grace, open our hearts to our own divinity. Because keep in mind, God is in heaven, God is in the transcendent, God is in the absolute, God is in your heart, God is in your legs, your feet, your body, God is in your smile, God is your consciousness, God is your heart, God is in the earth, God is in the trees. Instead of waiting for God to come to us, we should open our heart, open our eyes, and see God everywhere. Thanks, Lee, for the funny question. I hope I got something. I hope there was something there for you. Yeah, can you see God everywhere? One of the greatest awakenings for me was when I woke up and saw God looking out of my eyes. And then I looked at my little girl and I saw God looking back at me. And then I looked at my dog and saw God looking back at me in the form of Doodles, my little dog. And so, um, can you see God in life, in form, in your brothers and sisters? Can you see God in the rivers and the oceans? On Friday afternoon, when I was done with all my meetings, I went for a hike in Fairfax, California. That's in Marin County. And it was really warm out. It was, 65 degrees. And I climbed this little mountain quite easily because there's plenty of oxygen in Marin County. It's not like where I live at 8,000 feet, where it's hard to climb mountains. It's not so much air. And I climbed the mountain and I saw redwood trees, trees with leaves on them in January, which made me smile. I saw green grass and a sunset and rolling mountains that went out to the ocean. So can you see God everywhere? Can you see God in life? Can you unhook from that commentator, the inner sportscaster who's giving you the play-by-play on life, or the play-by-play on your partner or your boss or whoever your commenter is commenting on? Can you unhook from the commenter and see the absolute divinity, the grace of life, the beauty of life? When you open your eyes and see God, then you don't have to wait for God. Waiting for God can be hell. In order to wait for God, you have to be disconnected from your heart. Because when you're connected to your heart, you realize God is here. Divinity is here. Radiance is here. Luminosity is here. Within me and all around me. So that's a beautiful question. Thanks, Lee, for that question. Kate West writes, hi, Kate in California there. Craig, can you tell me that the kundalini will end for the 600th time? Kate, I will not tell you that the kundalini is going to end. I'm going to tell you that the kundalini will integrate with your body, with your nervous system, in a loving, peaceful, spacious, joy-filled, radiant way, which will upgrade your nervous system and leave you feeling that you are a child of the Most High, that you are happy to be alive. Happy to be alive. Truly happy. You will feel as if life is a delight instead of a struggle. So when Kundalini is awake in someone like you, Kate, when it's powerfully running through your body, it's not here to destroy you. It's not here to, make you feel overwhelmed. It's wanting you to join with it, to jump into the flow, to open your heart to it, to release your fear of it, to let the resistance burn up. That's what's happening in you. The resistance is burning up. So your struggle has to do with the resistance. It's not even conscious resistance, so just keep that in mind. I'm not blaming you. But when we struggle with Kundalini, it's because there's resistance in our body and our nervous system, because we have an animal body, and Kundalini is a divine flow. And so as the flow is going through the animal body, one thing has to give way to the other. The animal's not going to dominate the divine. The divine is going to transform the animal. And that can be a painful, disorienting, confusing, messy process, just like birth, just like a pregnancy. Eventually, the resistance, Kate, will burn up. And you'll be left feeling quite well, quite good, quite divine. And you'll have so much more light just shining through your heart, pouring through your eyes, through all your creative endeavors. And it will come. The best thing, if you have a lot of energy in the body, is to relax, let go, and trust But if we have God flowing through us and we are asking God to stop, God's there for a reason. And that's an argument that we're not going to win. God's chosen you because you're a divine being. And God wants to transform your body into a greater body. Nothing wrong with your current body, but God wants to upgrade your nervous system. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. But it can be quite difficult. But when you know, when you trust, when you have faith, it actually helps the nervous system to relax. If the nervous system is screaming, when will this end? It actually feels like it goes much longer. It like freezes time and you get stuck in states of panic. So we're looking for integration. We're looking for healing. Okay, here's a question from Morton. Morton, it must be late where you're at. It's got to be 2 or 3 in the morning, but hello, Morton. Hi, Craig. Could you speak about making decisions and how we know what is the highest choice to choose in the face of insecurity? Any ways to connect more deeply to finding clarity around bigger decisions? Morton, yes, this is a great question. Morton, I spent much of my life feeling deeply insecure and not being able to make up my mind. And so I was really happy when I figured this out. The first thing you need is clarity. So the clarity is the willingness to step back and see, okay, I have a decision before me. And then if you notice your emotions, and in the emotions, you notice there's insecurity there. So when you step back and you see, 2 choices or 10 choices, normally it's 2, this or that. That's normally the nature of the mind, is inherently dualistic. It's either this way or that way. That's the way the ego thinks. And then you notice the feeling of insecurity. So you're already, in the right direction. You've taken the backward step. And you notice there's insecurity here. If you ask an insecure friend to help you make a decision, you won't trust what they tell you. You won't trust them because they don't know. They don't know the way. They don't know. They're lying, or they're BSing, or they're scared, or they're rationalizing, or you ever seen someone really really insecure and trying to be really rational? When they speak, their quote unquote truth, you realize that's not the truth. That's just insecurity speaking. So we don't want to listen to insecurity. And I'm going to tell you, Morton, not to listen to rationality either. That may sound like terrible advice, but I'm going to tell you to do something different. I'm going to invite you, Morton, to become quiet, to feel into your heart. And let your heart show you the direction of the truth. So normally the truth will come with one word or one phrase. Normally it's something like this way. Let's do this. And as you say it, you'll feel a sense of relief, a sense of clarity, a sense of power. A sense of power. Sometimes your heart will ask you to do something difficult, but again, it will come with a quiet presence of power. A quiet presence of power. If you cannot find that place in your heart, I'm going to tell you just to put the question down for a little bit, to sleep on it a couple days. Let your dreams speak to you. Let life speak to you. Keep coming back to your heart. In the most gentle way, come back to your heart. Say, what's true here? This or that? Maybe it's a third way. Maybe it's something else. But let your heart speak to you. Let it show you the way. It will. It will. Life really isn't that complicated. It's our thinking mind that makes everything so complicated. So I know if I ever start thinking real hard about something, I've stepped outside of the truth. I rarely think much, I'll make myself sound like a really simple person. I really don't think much about anything. I'm just quiet and I listen to my heart, and my heart tells me clearly what to do. I've learned to trust that voice. As you trust that voice, what you find is power starts to wake up in the belly and insecurity dissolves. Insecurity dissolves. If you listen to that back and forth mind, insecurity will increase. It will continue living in your consciousness, in your nervous system. And so, Morton, I hope that helps. Okay, he's got a second part. I can't seem to make the decision of going home from my travels yet because I'm not sure if it's time yet. Should I just stay patient? Yes. Yes, Morton. Look at that. You answered your own question. I'm not sure if it's time yet, is what you wrote. Should I just stay patient? Yes, be patient, my friend. Be patient. Be patient. So Morton, you wrote me a long email, and it was a little bit confusing, I'll say. And I think you live in Sweden or Norway. I don't speak Swedish, so so I appreciate you writing, doing the best of your ability with your English. It's better than me trying to speak, in your native language. But I think you were saying you did some breath work session and you got a vision. You had a vision of you traveling back home. And I'll just say this about visions. Sometimes we'll sit in meditation, we'll do breath work, we'll do ayahuasca or psilocybin or something, wild and crazy like that. And we'll get a vision. And a vision, oftentimes, if it's a true vision, it means it will come in the future. It's this is meant to be in the future. But it doesn't mean that we have to do that right away. If your heart's telling you, I need a little bit more time, then you sit with that. You listen to that truth. You sit and you let it burn. You let all the thinking just burn away. And then eventually, when you're ready, it'll be time. It'll be time. And you'll know it. You'll know it. Okay. Let's see what else I have here. Shauna writes, you just made me homesick, Craig. I moved to southern Colorado a year ago. Now I miss the oceans and the weather of Northern California. Yeah. Northern California is very beautiful. There's a lot of people there, though. There's a lot of people. So I like to visit California, but there's too many people for me to stay. Now, if you go up far north in California, it's a lot like Colorado, way up north, like Humboldt and beyond. So thanks for sharing, Shauna. Okay. Wesley has a question. Wesley, is there something you wanted to say?
Hi, Craig.
Hi.
Thank you for your teaching. It's so multidimensional. The explanations you give are just so rich. I've just been soaking in every word. So
yeah.
And Doodles, that's got to be the cutest. It's got to be the cutest name.
Yeah.
I think that's made my night just hearing Doodles. That's your dog?
Yeah, I have two dogs. I have these little, there's the little Tibetan dogs, the little Shih Tzus, and I never would have gotten a dog like that, but someone gave me one, and when he was a puppy, and that's Doodles. And then last year we got another one, and his name is Buster. So I have these two little silly dogs, and yeah, they're fun and they're cute. And all my mountaineer friends come over and make fun of my dogs because they're not big huskies or wolf dogs or something. But then Doodles hops up and sits on their lap, and then they fall in love and they realize why I love Doodles so much.
Yeah, that was just very heartwarming.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say my heart goes out to you, Kate. I think it was Kate West, you said.
Yeah.
And I can really relate to what her question, and it does, at least in the experience here, it has gotten less chaotic, less confusing. Things eventually do integrate and settle into, it's ongoing, but I feel like maybe I'm a step or so ahead and just telling you,
yeah,
keep going, and really it's the level of surrender. The deeper that gets, the more permission that energy has to move. That takes some time, but it becomes a real joy because you realize it's old karma and difficult things that are having the chance to be met with an open heart and kind of move out. So
yeah,
I just want to say that. And real quick, I've been thinking about how everything is grace.
yeah,
And it kind of connects to that. As the experience here is deeper and deeper integrity and alignment, I'm noticing that nothing the kind of personal sting of things is kind of going out of, not taking things so personally.
yeah,
And it's kind of allowing me to see the projections, either positive or negative, that we as humans put on each other. But I'm realizing that the negative ones, so-called negative ones, in some ways, can be real energetic gifts.
yeah,
with when there's no. It's so paradoxical, but it's like when there's no defense, no resistance, that's actually the safest that I've felt, because it allows that to just move without sticking to anything, and it's just kind of energy that gets liberated.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true, Wes. I'm glad you bring that up because so many people, they like to wake up and out of themselves and have a sense of feeling of freedom from their humanity. But what most people don't realize is how much energy, how much of our life force is all entangled in emotions and reactions and taking things personally. And the things that we in the past held on to so tightly in such a guarded and defended way, when we liberate that energy, not only are we releasing, the old painful emotion, but that energy that we were using to guard and kind of repress our feelings, that energy eventually becomes spiritual energy that we can use. So we get more of ourself back through the liberation process. And you will feel much more alive, much more whole, so much more strong and embodied, to the degree that you've liberated these aspects of old wounds or defensiveness or guardedness. And you begin to feel that your whole sense of being has so much more energy. So liberation isn't just about you freeing yourself from negative emotions or whatever it is, but you get all the energy that was once guarding a negative emotion. you get that back and you get to use it. And so you're able to move more freely, more fully here on planet Earth. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
That
thing.
is really beautiful. Muji Baba, I think I got this from him. He said something like, the wise man builds a house out of the bricks his enemies, quote unquote enemies throw at him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it's just, to me, that's, that word tantra is, that's kind of, I think, maybe connected to that, is just recognizing the gift, even in the kind of dark things.
Oh, that's 100% tantra right there. The tantra uses all those negative energies, the repressed energies, the painful energies, the confused energies, the energies of people, throwing bricks at you, however you say it.
Yeah.
Tantra takes that energy, and it turns it on its head, and then uses it as its own fuel. Yeah, and
Christopher the Mill is another term that I just thought of.
Yeah,
Ram Dass,
exactly. And like you said, when you start to practice in this way with true tantra, you realize that, like you said, everything is grace. Everything is grace. Whereas in the beginning, when we're first waking up, we almost see that the whole world is an obstacle, that everything is an obstacle. But the further you walk, you realize, oh no, everything is grace. And any obstacle is just something within me that hasn't been liberated. And as soon as that thing begins to become liberated, you gain the energy of that very thing that you once resisted. And so then we become like a hunter. We're actively excited to find things where there's stuck energy in our body, in our nervous system, in our field, in our environment, where we look for those things because we realize, oh, there's great energy in those. And I feel more alive when I open those doors. I feel more dead when I try to keep them unconsciously shut. And so that's a very beautiful thing. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else, Wesley, you'd like to share before we're done?
That's it. Thank you so much, Craig. And I just want to send my love to everybody that joins and watches these online. It's great to be part of the community.
Yeah. Thanks, Wesley. Yeah, it's nice. One of the beautiful things about being on retreat is you get an opportunity to see some of your fellow brothers and sisters. When you come to satsang, even if it's online, and you see some of the familiar faces, whether you're on Zoom or on even Facebook, and see a little picture of the person, you get to see that there's fellow travelers here on the path. The Buddha always spoke about this, the importance of the Buddha, that's the teacher, the Dharma, the teachings, and the Sangha. He called this the three jewels. And the Sangha is so important to have some friends, some brothers and sisters here on planet Earth who are moving in the same direction, the same aim, the same goal. Sometimes when we go, to our non-spiritual friends with a spiritual struggle, they'll look at us, they'll tell us we're crazy, stop meditating too much, you don't need to go on a retreat, you're just wasting your time. And see, that's not so helpful. But when you're with your spiritual friends, they'll tell you, oh no, yes, go talk with the teacher. Yes, read this book. Yes, let's meditate more. Yes, let's do more yoga. Yes, let's make, Sunday nights and Wednesday nights a priority. Yes, let's go on retreat together. And you feel this force. We start to feed off each other and greatly support each other. And it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful thing. Okay, one last, let's see if I can pull off a quick question here. Here's a question from Punja in India. I like folks from India. They always call me sir. Not many people call me sir, but Punja writes, sir, my brother is suffering from psychosis. He's a regular practitioner of yoga and meditation. For the past 1 month, he's having delusional thoughts, behavior, etc. I need guidance regarding this. I am from India. Yes, my friend. So one of the good things that your brother could do is he could meditate less or just stop meditating. And he could just get his feet on planet Earth. So if we start going into psychosis, it could be a number of different things. The first thing is, true psychosis with a schizophrenic flavor normally shows up in, normally in years when we're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Normally it's right around 20, 21, 22. Sometimes a couple years before, sometimes a couple years after. So if he's in that age range, and he's having psychosis, he probably shouldn't be meditating. Should just take a temporary break. That would be a good thing for him. Sometimes if we're chanting mantras over and over again, just getting our mind obsessed with one mantra, if we have an ego that has any confusion in it, it can get a little weird, a little neurotic, and lead into strange, bizarre psychological states like psychosis. Oftentimes, when people on the spiritual path experience psychosis, oftentimes it is temporary. That's the good news. But if he's meditating a lot, it's probably not going to help. If he's meditating and smoking, marijuana or ganja, whatever you call it over in India, that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. The best thing for him to do is to get grounded, for him to work in the fields, work in the garden, work as a landscaper. I don't know if they have I'm sure they have landscapers in India, but to get his hands in the earth, to get himself as grounded as possible. And the next thing is, I'm going to encourage him to talk with a psychiatrist and see, is he having, schizophrenia? Is he having schizoid affect disorder? Is he having bipolar disorder? Sometimes these things arise, and it has nothing to do with meditation, but it just has to do with his psychology. And so he could probably pick up meditation again after he gets grounded. But in the meantime, he needs to get grounded is what your brother needs. And so if you can kind of gently coach him to get some ground under his feet, that's going to be helpful. The other thing is diet might help a little bit. So if he's eating a lot of root vegetables, potatoes, yams, carrots, things that grow in the earth, that's going to be good. Some people say meat, but I don't always believe that so much. Sometimes heavy meat is helpful, but normally you get the same results from eating potatoes and yams, things that are grounded and rooted. Okay. And yeah, he might need medication. That might be what this is about. He might just need to stop his mantra if he's saying a mantra really intensely. If he's doing intense yoga, we want to just relax that. Maybe just try walking meditation if he's real attached to meditation. And of course, the big thing is if you're having delusional thoughts, whether you're psychotic or a normal human being, like, most of the United States right now is in one giant delusional thought that is saying, this team must win, whether it's San Francisco or is it Kansas City? I hope I'm not wrong about that. But anyways, the United States is having this giant delusional thought, my team must win, and that means something. And so we're all a little bit psychotic, from one perspective. We take our jobs so seriously, like Wesley was saying, sometimes we take things so personally and it causes us to suffer. And so it's helpful if we're having psychosis to not believe what you think and just come into the present moment, your direct experience. What is actually happening now in reality? And by reality, I mean, like the ground, the earth, the chair you're sitting in. What's happening right here, right now. Not in my imagination, not in my fantasy realm. What's happening right here, right now. And so I hope that helps, Punja. get your brother to a psychiatrist if you can, and see if he can just stop meditating temporarily. Okay, so thank you all truly so much. Thank you all for your donations. It's greatly supported. This last year, I spent a lot of money getting new camera gear and computers and trying to do my best to bring you quality programming. And so it's really helpful that when you offer donations, it helps to pay for everything, the technology realm, and keep everything up to speed. So you're not just supporting me, you're supporting all the people that are touched by this broadcast. So thank you truly so much for the donations. If you're on YouTube, do a like, a subscribe, all that silly stuff, and write a comment, a question. I'll do my best to get to those and bring those forward. If I miss your question, send me an email again, put it in the chat. Look forward to seeing many of you in the upcoming retreat. The retreat is completely full with a wait list, so I look forward to seeing you all in a couple days. May peace be with you all, and I will be back after the let's say like the 10th of February 2020. Have a great night, everyone.